For more, we can speak to Francois Gémen, the lead author of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Thank you for speaking to France 24. Just want to begin. This year, climate change took a bit of a backseat due to the pandemic. Now, as it returns to the spotlight today, what's on your wish list for leaders to do in Glasgow?
Well, there are many. I would say that what is really topping my wish list is that the commitments made by the different governments align themselves with the collective objective of the Paris Agreement. We know that in 2015, they agreed on a temperature increase of maximum 2 degrees by the end of the century. But if we add up the different commitments that have been made since, we are not aligned with this objective. On the contrary, we are set on a trajectory of a 2.7 degree increase. And that is if all governments respect their pledges. So I would say that the number one on my wish list would be really that these commitments are aligned with the collective objective of the Paris Agreement. And the number two would be that we find a way that governments would respect these commitments.
Yeah, now another thing, slowing talks even before they get started is how much can really be accomplished if the leader of China, the world's biggest total polluter, is not even attending the climate summit in Glasgow.
Well, I don't think that we should, overinterpret the fact that Xi Jinping will not be attending himself COP26. The presence of world leaders is no guarantee of success. At COP15 in 2009 in Copenhagen, there were about 120 world leaders, including the leader of China, and that conference was still a massive failure. And I'd like to say that maybe if the world leaders had been absent in Copenhagen, maybe we would have had a better agreement. So I wouldn't make too much of a big deal of the absence of the leaders of China and Russia. China and Russia will be represented at the conference. They will be represented by high-ranking delegates. So the absence of the leaders does not really worry me.
Now, one of the major issues also is how rich countries share the burden with poorer ones. What do you think needs to be done in that front?
Well, a lot. And clearly one of the key obstacles to the success of COP26 is the increasing resentment by countries from the global south about the fact that industrialized countries have not respected their pledges. So I would say that the first thing really that needs to be guaranteed to ease down the tensions between the global south and industrialized countries is that industrialized countries need to provide the money that they've promised, that is about $100 billion annually, to help developing countries reduce their emissions and adapt to the impacts of climate change. Without the respect of this pledge, there can be no agreement in Glasgow.
And how can we make governments stick to their pledges?
Well, that's a difficult issue, and I think that we should not overestimate what the COP can achieve in that regard. The COP is only a forum for discussion between governments. What is needed is that national public opinions hold governments accountable, and that this is very much up to the governments to stick to their pledges. There is not much that the COP in itself can do in that regard.
All right, Francois Gémen, thank you very much for your time and your analysis. Francois Gémen from the IPCC.